Hello and welcome to India Ideas. This is the show where we talk about science and tech, innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm Gautam Roy, and today we are talking about young women powering startups as more and more startups are popping up in the country and there are women founders galore. And there's a report that leadership teams of 45% startups in India have a woman co-founder, a trend which is expected to further inspire more and more women to turn their ideas into startups. And we're talking about that today with three young co-founding women, and they are Tanya Malik, who's a co-founder of Bharat Jal, which provides clean drinking water to commuters using electric vehicles affordably in urban and semi-urban areas. Dimpy Diwan is with us, co-founder Hanchins, which is a hyper-local food delivery app connecting hand-picked city special restaurants, food brands, and eateries to foodies like me, as is obvious. And Lakshmi Das is also with us, co-founder ProPhase, which is the first cyber security company globally to provide a pure Kubernetes-driven software-defined web application firewall, bringing in scalability, better performance, and speed for web apps while cyber securing them. So that is quite a mouthful, and we'll find out what that is all about with Lakshmi as well. But first, if I could ask you, Tanya, tell us about your startup first. How and why did you and your co-founder conceive it, and how has the journey been so far?
Sure. So my co-founder is actually my father. I come from a family of educationists, and we've always been taught that you have to keep a worldview of what's happening around you, and you have to try and see where you can make a difference. So very much like a problem that all of us face when we step out of a train station or we step out of a cab, and we don't necessarily want to buy a whole bottle of water, but we do want a glass of water to quench our thirst, and there's no real source to find it. The only thing that you can really find is the whole bottle of water for 20 rupees. What we are trying to do is create a system of electric mobile carts, so trying to reduce what's happening in the pollution space because of other vehicles, and use these carts as dispensable water machines that can give commuters glasses of water at 3 rupees or a whole liter of water in their own bottles at 10 rupees. So trying to solve the problem not just of not being able to find water, but also finding it cheap, finding it in a source that's clean, that's worth drinking, and that is able to not just add to what's happening to society, but also take away from some of the pollution that society is causing.
Very noble idea, quite commendable. Dimpy, if I could ask you as well, I believe as a co-founder, you also head tech, product, and ops for your startup. So how's that going so far?
To be, as a surprise, will come to everybody. I'm actually not from tech background at all. But then I work with tech companies like Paytm, American Express Bank, and that also encouraged me to do something of my own. We started somewhere in the middle of COVID. We're just 5 months old company. And during the middle of pandemic, we got up and we said that we need to start delivering. So we delivered to COVID patients. We were delivering everything in express mode in hyperlocal logistics. And now we support large aggregators like Big Basket, Dealshare, etc. So I think women are very logical in nature, and they are very, very quick, when it comes to learning, whether it is personally or professionally, both. So I picked up skills from some of my past organizations. It was easy for me to then start building something of my own. So yes, I manage the entire product and tech, but I think that product and tech is not something you want to build. You want to build something for the user. So going out to the users and speaking to them, whether it is B2B players, etc. as well, what is the kind of technology that you're really looking for, whether it's tech, deep tech, etc. So that is how we go backward, and then we start building, technology in terms of web services and app services, etc. It's not easy having a startup of your own, because 15 years I've had a corporate career, but then it's not, it's nothing which is impossible. And I will tell you something, that my co-founder, he's also ex-Tata Group, but he's very, very supportive in terms of, how he wants to bring along women as a co-founder and also people in the company. So I think it's really, really helped me there.
Okay, great. Sounds wonderful. Let's talk about your enterprise as well. Lakshmi, your startup is in the cyber security space sector, as you might call it, and it has its own USP. Globally, it has a USP. Tell us more about it and your own role in the enterprise.
Basically, to talk about Proface, we are actually a cybersecurity web application security provider. So what we do is we have changed the whole, trend of cybersecurity, because India was not having a very good, secure domain, because we were actually dependent on the international players for, securing our web applications or anything. So there was a major gap that, we had actually participated one of the IDITS challenges. So there was a question like, why would actually we trust the data with a, foreign organization instead we could actually do it in India itself. Like, we are going for everything make in India. So even cyber security, security has to be dealt with seriously within the country, because just as we have the military force out there on the borders, securing our whole nation, they are not actually there to attack the others, but they are on the defense front line. So same way, we are actually trying to defend our data, because data is the new oil, and everybody is eyeing for each other's data and what they are actually doing within the organization. So that is very important that we deal it with topmost priority, and we kind of change from the reactive to a response mode, because Indian mindsets were more of a reactive, wherein they would actually think of tackling the problem when it occurs. But that's not going to be suitable in the cybersecurity area, because that would be lead to a lot of damage to your organization, your reputation, your business revenue, everything goes for a toss. So I feel
Certainly.
that it's high time that we take it seriously. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Tanya, it was interesting to find out about your experience as a young woman co-founder whose co-founder is her father. So, apart from being a young woman who, is a co-founder for a startup which is in an early stage, you had a parent as well as a co-founder. So, that must be a different dynamic altogether. So, how's that experience been in terms of birthing an enterprise and then nurturing it further? Not that the journey has been very long, but we wish that it's far, far longer.
My father and I often joke about this that we never thought that we would be parents to a child together because we're just not same and similar in any way. So we have a very bifurcated roles in the company, and that's really how we made it work. So the dynamics have been beautiful because you have somebody to look back at, and we have a very strict rule of not bringing any conversations about work to the dinner table because that leaves my mom very upset. But it's been a very interesting journey so far, actually. What we were doing on the product side of things has required a lot of tech intervention, interestingly, because all of our vehicles are actually fully automated. There's no
Hmm.
manual intervention into the filling of the water and the dispensing of the water. So that's something that I've been very keen on looking into and I've been doing. However, my father has been looking into the operations and logistics of things. The very big challenges that we've faced have been actually of the magnitudes to deal with some of the government regulations and legislations when it comes to water and being able to dispense it on the road. There have been legislations that were made in 1957 that were only revised in about 2018. Then they go back to a revision. So there's been a lot of tug of war with just getting some of the permissions, which we did manage to for Delhi. So Bharajal currently has blanket permissions for dispensing water in the trolleys that we do and the vehicles that we do, which nobody else does. So that was a journey in itself because I think if we talk about all of our struggles, we didn't have any problem trying to explain this need to our customers. We did not have a problem marketing it to our customers because everybody understood the need for clean drinking water. In
Yes.
fact, when we came back after lockdown, very unexpectedly, we had absolutely no problem being on the road because people really wanted clean drinking water. But when it comes to the bigger side of things and just being able to do some of these things in the right manner and not breaking some of the rules, it's been a very, very hard journey. More so for both of us, not just me as a woman, but just for us in general.
I'm sure there are regulatory hurdles that do come up when you get into spaces where private enterprise has not been around for too long. But we'll talk about that separately. Dimpy, if I could ask you now, there are preconceived notions about women as well. One is that women can't do math well, they're not very tech savvy and all. Do you feel that there is enough now in India to sort of bust that myth about women altogether?
Okay, so I'll first start with my experience few years ago. So before the pandemic happened, I was developing the entire social media team for one of the brands I was working with. And we wanted to give opportunity to women who had already taken sabbaticals. They were working from home. For certain reasons, they couldn't go out and work. And I developed and nurtured that team of more than 100 women 3 years ago. much before the pandemic happened. And it was so easy and swift for me to actually drive those operations. So I don't believe in that, because factually it's completely different. When I was developing my own tech team, more than 50% of my tech team is actually women, both on the back end side, front end side, app and web. When you're developing a startup, sometimes you're not doing anything intentionally. Maybe a few years later down the line, you're doing with a purpose. But then these are the kind of people that we were actually getting from the market. So I don't believe that, women do not understand the, if you're in, if you want to be a part of product or tech or any particular assignment, you need to be logical in nature. And I think that is what we go forward with. Yeah.
I
I
know,
don't
because
believe in that.
yeah, I was asking this because and I'll pose this question to Lakshmi, because there's an oft-cited UNESCO report, Lakshmi, which says that women are underrepresented in science and tech. Just 22% women in AI worldwide, with regional differences, for example. But do you think India can show the way in bucking this trend as well?
Yes, definitely. Because if you look into our history, we've got like a lot of women leaders out there. We even having Indira Gandhi as our prime minister. So that itself shows that a lot of caliber within the women folks in India, and they are actually coming up with new ideas and innovative things. Because according to the latest Tokyo, the Olympic reports, so we've had many women actually buying a lot of medals out there. So that is in fact really proud for a nation like, country like India. So I'm sure, there are a lot of caliber. If a woman can actually manage a kitchen, and her children, her family, and work together at the same time, so that means she is good at multitasking. And you need a lot of logic to actually balance a lot of things in life. So that itself brings her with an innate nature, or that inborn nature of doing a lot of logical stuff in a better way. And obviously, she would need the support, support from the whole entire ecosystem, and that would actually make her go a long way for sure.
Oh, definitely, and that I think is happening, because another data that said that has just come about is a report about furious hiring on in the country these days in the IT sector of women. 65% of overall recruitment, in fact, and women form 43% of the total hiring since March this year, and pay packets are also ballooning, sometimes of 70% hike as well. So, Tanya, do you feel that this is fair? It's really fair to label this as diversity hiring, because that's what it's been portrayed as.
So it's very interesting that Dimpi just brought it up, and she said that companies do something and then they're not really doing it intentionally, and then down the line you realize that, oh, it could just be counted for that. I am very much of the belief that it's not diversity hiring, because if it would have been, there would be very different signals to account for that. I do think one of the big reasons is that now the internet has made space for you to be just gender neutral and express yourself and understand more and learn more. So women and everybody else has got an opportunity to just learn a lot more of the spaces that they earlier didn't understand. Space, tech. I think these are two of the really big ones where we've not seen so much representation as before, but we are seeing now. And especially in the lockdown period, I think women just went through a whole magnitude of emotions, very much like men, but a whole magnitude of emotions that led them to a lot of self learning, which has led to a lot of the hiring, because we've also faced and seen a lot of that. There are a lot more women out in the market. There are a lot more women actually getting hired because the skills that they have learned and built over these 18 months that we've all been home have been a lot higher than maybe some of the men. I'm not making a blanket statement here, but it really is something that I have seen over the past 6 months, because
No, no, it's very true, especially for a lot of men in India.
yes, yes, it is.
Anyway, Dimpy, in fact, what has also happened is that the other thing that has really taken off in the pandemic is remote hiring, work from home, and even second career women are getting a very good look in at this point of time, because of companies wanting to hire quickly and not waiting for that, notice period. Do you think that is something that is being reflected among startups as well?
Absolutely. And I would really go out to the brands and even to the government and, all those brands that they're hiring. Women come along with a lot of responsibilities, right? So we need to be a little more careful and empathetic. Sometimes their houses also don't allow them, their small houses, they don't allow them to even do any kind of remote working, right? So we all have to come together and create those opportunities. While I say that women equality is there, but India is not limited to top 48 cities with high app presence. It's far beyond that. And this is what Hanchins is creating. We have to go out to 400 cities. Unfortunately, if I look at India, less than 1% of women are actually in hyperlocal and logistics.
Okay.
Can we make it 50-50? Maybe no, but maybe we can make it 70-30 and do it in a manner that it has technology enabled, wherein it allows us to give them opportunities in geofencing so as to keep their security in mind, give them body cams, give them also the devices in the hands of the women. They might not have motorbikes, they might not have EVs. So how much can we take as an asset liability? How much we can give them opportunity? So yes, and also I would request that since everything is happening online, I would encourage government and even big brands to come out and at least start e-learning courses and give this thing on pro bono basis for women, because they just need that one little push and they're all out to prove their mettle.
Definitely. And proving their mettle is what you guys are also doing. And Lakshmi, just to ask you, in terms of how things have gone for you so far, I just want to ask you, how do clients respond to a woman co-founder, when you go present to them or pitch to them? Do they factor that in, that you're a woman, or is it something that they don't really pay much attention to and just pay attention to your pitch?
Yes, that is a definitely interesting question. So, first of all, cybersecurity companies, or rather product companies, are, like you could say, a handful in India. So, and so I come from that very, that small space, and it's relatively kind of a young domain. So in that way, I would say that when they see a women co-founder, I mean, first response will, they'll actually have a surprised expression, okay, a woman co-founder kind of expression, because it's like very rare. So I'm really privileged that I am into this space, and I can be an example for others also to come up, because in our organization we have many many ladies out there who've got like a lot of caliber, being in the cybersecurity space, like even one of, like being the top performance comparing to the men counterparts. So because they manage it all, I mean, not just be the tech space or marketing, operations, everything. So they have that kind of multitasking, or that skills, the multitude of skills they have they bring with themselves, which is actually very beneficial for a startup. In that sense. So that way,
Yeah.
I feel it's really it's changing. The trend has to change, and a lot of new folks have to come into the cybersecurity domain, because it's the need of the hour for the country.
Certainly, certainly. And Tanya, I'll take that forward with you, because what I want to know is, when people see that there's a woman co-founder, a young woman co-founder, is there, pleasant surprise there, or is there skepticism, or is it something that people are indifferent to and just want to know what the company does and what it can do for them?
I think it changes. It's all of those, and it starts with pleasant surprise, then it goes to a bit of skepticism, then it goes to a surprise, and then it's a little bit of shock, and there's maybe a little bit of like tug of war of egos. But I think the best way that I've learned how to deal with it is to forget myself that I'm a woman. I don't look at myself as any different than my father, for instance, walking into a boardroom, because there are certain things that come along with professionalism, and I think if we as women understand it ourselves and we stop making that difference in our minds, it'll be a little bit easier for us to just get through our daily lives, and not just it's not just meetings or occasions that this has to be done in. This is almost everyday life. So while
Okay.
it's a tough journey, it's a really interesting one, because you get to see so many more varied emotions and faces and expressions during the day that I often have lots of fun laughing about at the end of the day. So I have a great time doing it.
Well, that's a good way to wrap up the day. But Dimpi, let me cite something that Tanya just said. She sometimes, or most of the times, forgets that she's a woman while she's at work. But should a woman, or can a woman really do that? Because some of the sensitivities that you have as even a co-founder, as a business person, are very gender specific. And in any case, in workplaces these days, women are conscious about their surroundings and how they interact with people, because that again has a bearing on the entire performance through the day.
Okay, so while you should look like a girl, act like a lady, and think like a man, in a man's world, see, I have 15 years of work experience. One, the time that I was working in a dynamic that I have more men around me, and I was into service sector. So I would go into meetings where we had 1,000 men and there were just two women, right?
Hmm.
So I'm just very comfortable in my skin. But I can tell you that we are living in a much evolved world. When we are going to bigger cities, talking to bigger aggregators, chain outlets, etc., we already have that enabled women in the system. So they really don't care. They mean business with you. They mean SLAs and they mean KPIs. But then the minute I go to, tier two, tier three hubs, etc., it's very promising for them because they see that, okay, fine, even women from our homes, our sisters, our mothers, our daughters can come out and work. And they start approaching us, can you also do some kind of skill development for them? I also want to congratulate some of the big VC, micro VC firms like She Capital, AWE. They're so purposeful today that either you are a woman founder, we want to invest in you, or you have an idea which solves women problem. It could be anything to do with their mental health, their wellness, etc. So I think we are living in a much more evolved world. But again, if the world beyond that 48 cities still has to be brought together in India, and how we can together do it is something that we really need to work together as a team. Yeah,
One way to do it is to have more and more women in leadership roles to,
absolutely.
bridge that gap that is there, not just in terms of leadership of companies, Lakshmi, but overall in terms of employment as well, because there's a huge gap in our country in that sphere as well. And better way to do it than women giving women opportunities?
Yes, definitely. So actually, you should be a kind of an inspiration so that others can have the tendency to take up challenging roles, especially in the field of cybersecurity, wherein even the like general talent that we have like out of the colleges, it's kind of not so great. I mean, so we have to have bring up that awareness and bring in a lot of cybersecurity related trainings and stuff, and encourage them to take up certifications so that they're tech enabled, they're cyber security, they have that vision in them. And so this actually can bring in a lot of change. And because this is a very a very competitive field, because we are actually trying to compete with the international vendors out there, the big players out there. And to compete and stay on par with them, it's not an easy game. I mean, so it's been a big struggle for us, getting that credibility in the industry, having the brand name in the market. So, and the accelerator has actually helped us in a long way actually. So in all these kind of accelerator programs, so that being a as you said, being a co-founder, a lady co-founder, not many would actually give that the credibility to you, especially being in the security domain. Like, what would a lady be actually doing here, kind of thing. So in that way, these accelerators did actually help us come out and get mentored by a lot of industry experts and be exposed into the market, and all these kind of supports we've been given. And luckily, so, and in the pandemic time, like, because of the huge digitization that's happening,
Yes.
cybersecurity is a major priority, because everybody is actually working on their online mode, and a man-to-man business is not there anymore. So
Yes.
this way you feel that cybersecurity is really important, and a lot of people have to be trained in that way. And we've been actually asked to take webinars to actually educate people, and like related with governments of various states, and how we can actually change the education system of India to actually adapt to bring in more tech-enabled folks, rather than just the theory-based folks that actually the system of education that we've gone through. So
Certainly, the
that.
new education policy is all about that, and skilling, and the way even Mudra loans have been issued out. A lot is being done to empower women and get them into the workforce as entrepreneurs or as employees as well. And we can see a good example of that in front of us. And all the more power to you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank
Thanks
you.
a lot. We enjoyed it.